Hi, I'm Gail Sokol, and on today's show, we'll be talking about the ultimate chocolate cream pie.
Welcome to Baking Radio. Learn the art and science of baking with author, educator, and award-winning chef, Gail Sokol. Whether you've been baking your whole life or you're brand new to the world of baking and you're looking to build your confidence and learn new skills in the kitchen, you're in the right place. This is Baking Radio.
On today's show, I thought it might be fun to talk about what goes into a great cream pie, and especially the chocolate cream pie. So in general, a cream pie has three parts. A single bottom crust, usually pre-baked, known as blind baked, a creamy filling, usually made on the stovetop, and it's usually referred to as a stovetop custard, and a fluffy whipped cream topping. This is in general, but we are going to be honing in to the chocolate cream pie. In season 1, I did a show called Talking Pie Crusts. So if you want to go back, listen to that show because it breaks down each type of pie crust. And I'm going to be referring to a pâte sucrée today, which is really a sugar cookie crust, because that is in my ultimate chocolate cream pie. So making a chocolate cream pie, or any cream pie for that matter, there are decisions to be made. And one of them is which type of bottom crust you will use. Traditionally, a chocolate cream pie, and most cream pies, use a flaky pie crust. That's that pâte brisée, that flaky pie crust that breaks with a fork, and in French, brisée means broken crust. Pâte brisée means broken crust. So picture taking a big forkful of a chocolate cream pie, and what comes to mind? For me, it's that cold, creamy, deep, chocolatey filling, ever so creamy whipped cream topping all together, and as it's blending in your mouth, you're sort of chomping on this wonderful flaky pie crust. Well, for the past several months, I have been on a quest to make the ultimate in chocolate cream pies, and I've been experimenting with different type crusts. I made one with a flaky type crust, a flaky pie crust. I made one with a chocolate crumb crust. You know, where you take cookie crumbs or cookies, like refrigerator cookies, and grind them up in the food processor. That type of crumb crust. And then I hit something big. I made one with a sugar cookie crust. That's a pâte sucrée. That's a crust that actually could be baked into cookies if you wanted to. It's so delicious. It's like a shortbread. Now, I've had a lot of pie. Trust me, so much pie. And I love my recipe for chocolate cream pie from my book, Baking with Success. And that has a chocolate crumb crust, a lovely chocolate filling, and a bruleed marshmallow topping. It's a little different, not your standard pie. But I wanted to push the envelope that much further. Yikes. So after experimenting a bit, I found that I actually did fall in love with that sugar cookie crust, that bottom crust that when you break into it, sort of has a snap and crispness that combines beautifully with the creamy filling. And I baked it blind, but this time, instead of a pie tin, guess what I baked it in? A false bottom tart pan. It's a little fancier than a typical pie, and it worked beautifully. It was fabulous. I spread a layer of dark chocolate. You could use bittersweet, semi-sweet, any type of dark chocolate you want, white or dark, onto the bottom of the hot crust as it comes out of the oven. And as it melted, I spread a very thin layer across the bottom crust. Guess what that does? That prevents a soggy bottom. The chocolate also gave it a nice little extra hint of richness. I then boosted up my chocolate pastry filling to make it even more chocolatey by adding not only semi-sweet chocolate, but I also added Dutch processed cocoa powder. What a difference it made. It elevated it. It just gave a really depth of chocolate flavor. And remember, Dutch processed cocoa, that's cocoa powder with the acidity removed. It's richer in taste. It's actually darker in color than a natural cocoa powder. And I actually like that crisp shortbread crust as a contrast to the creaminess of that rich chocolate filling. Then I topped it all with a stabilized whipped cream and tons of it, and shards of shredded dark chocolate. Now, stabilized, what does that mean? Stabilized means that gelatin is added to the whipped cream to help prevent weeping. And I don't mean crying, but I mean the gelatin will prevent the whipped cream after you beat air into it and it gets thick and fluffy. It'll prevent it from going back to its liquid state. And you don't want that on a pie. So are you ready? I'm going to give you my ultimate chocolate cream pie recipe right now, right here. So this will make one 10-inch false bottom tart pie. And it's fabulous. We're going to start with the crust, and that's the sugar cookie crust. So in a food processor, you're going to pulse 8 tablespoons or 1 stick of cold unsalted butter that you might want to cut into small cubes. And you're going to pulse it with 1/4 cup of granulated sugar, just until it's broken down to pea-sized pieces. Then in a small bowl, you're going to combine 1 egg yolk and 4 tablespoons of heavy cream. Add this mixture to the food processor and just blend it well. Then you're going to add 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour and a pinch of salt to the food processor and just pulse it 3 or 4 times until a dough forms. Don't overwork it. Pour it into a bowl, gather it together, and wrap it in plastic wrap. Take that dough, put it right in plastic wrap it up, and chill it for about 30 minutes. You can even freeze it for several months, or you can even chill it for up to a week. Next, you're going to preheat your oven to 425 degrees Fahrenheit when you're ready to actually bake your pie. And you're going to spray a 10-inch false bottom tart pan with nonstick cooking spray. On a lightly floured work surface, you're going to roll out your dough to a rough 12-inch circle. That's bigger than your 10-inch false bottom tart pan because remember, it's got sides, so it's got to be bigger. Carefully fit your dough into the tart pan, fitting the dough around the bottom and up the sides. If you see any cracks, don't worry about it. Just patch them up. And then cut off the excess dough off the top of that false bottom tart pan by rolling a rolling pin over the top edges, and they should just fall away. Using a fork, prick the dough all over the bottom. That's known as stippling or docking the dough, and that'll help prevent any steam from forming underneath and puffing the dough up. You're going to carefully place the tart with the dough in it, the tart pan, onto a foil-lined sheet pan. You never want to bake a false bottom tart pan on an oven rack by itself because the bottom will come off and you'll lose your pie. So always put it on a lined sheet pan. Place a piece of parchment paper inside that tart pan and fill with pie weights, or I like to use dried, uncooked beans. This will prevent your crust from shrinking. You want to bake the tart shell on that sheet pan at 425 degrees Fahrenheit for about 5 minutes. Then you're going to lower the temperature of the oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit and continue baking, maybe 10 to 15 minutes, and then gently lift out the parchment, gather each end of the parchment paper with the weights and gently pick it up, remove it, and return the tart shell back to the oven for approximately 10 to 12 minutes, or until the dough looks cooked through and is barely light brown. Remove it from the oven, and then immediately scatter half a cup of any type of chocolate you want, high quality white or bittersweet chocolate, and just scatter the little pieces all around. Make sure it's chopped or it's in chip form. And as it melts, spread it with an offset spatula all over the bottom crust. That's your insurance that your crust will not get soggy from your chocolate filling and it adds a little something, something, a little something extra. And it will only be a thin layer, remember, not too much. So once that is melted, allow it to cool and allow that chocolate layer to just firm up a bit. Now we're going to get to our chocolate creamy filling, also referred to as a stovetop custard. And why is that? Because we make it on top of the stove. And as a kid, I used to call it pudding. It was just chocolate pudding. So in a medium saucepan, I'm going to heat 1.5 cups of milk. And I usually use whole milk, but if you want to use any other type of milk, it's fine. It'll work beautifully. And then you're going to add 1 cup of granulated sugar and take 1 tablespoon out. You don't want a full cup. So just 1 cup minus a tablespoon, add it to the milk and stir it until the sugar is dissolved and it comes to a simmer. In a medium heat-proof bowl, you're going to whisk together another 1 cup of milk and 4 tablespoons of cornstarch. And then you're going to add to that 3 tablespoons of Dutch processed cocoa powder and 3 egg yolks. And you're going to whisk that mixture up. So remember, in that heat-proof bowl, you have a cup of milk, you have 4 tablespoons of cornstarch, 3 tablespoons of Dutch processed cocoa, and 3 egg yolks. Whisk that up. You're going to slowly pour that hot milk mixture that you have ready in simmering slowly into that egg yolk mixture, whisking it constantly. You're going to temper your egg yolks so that they don't get shocked and curdle. So slowly pour that hot milk mixture into it and then pour the mixture back into the saucepan. Place the saucepan over medium to medium-high heat and bring the mixture to a boil, whisking it constantly. The mixture will get super thick, but you want to allow it to boil for about 1 minute. If it gets too crazy, turn the temperature down. You want to remove it from the heat, and then you're going to gently whisk in 1 cup of semi-sweet chopped chocolate, 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter, and 1.5 teaspoons of pure vanilla extract. So that's your beautiful chocolate filling. Now you're going to pour the filling immediately into the chocolate-lined crust, and you're going to place a piece of plastic wrap directly on that filling because we want to prevent any type of film from forming. And that happens because there's proteins in milk solids known as casein, and it can actually cause this little skin, and you want to make sure that it doesn't do that. So you're going to cover it with plastic wrap and chill until that filling is cold. And now it's time for our whipped cream topping. So we're going to use a stabilization type of a procedure where we're going to stabilize the whipped cream so it doesn't weep like we talked about before. So first, we're going to take a teaspoon of unflavored gelatin and we're going to blend it with 1.5 tablespoons of water, and we're going to put it in a small heat-proof container. Could be glass, could be a mug, whatever you want to do, and let it bloom. Just let all the water get absorbed by that gelatin. The gelatin will soften, and it's known as blooming. You're going to let it be for about 5 minutes. And in a saucepan, a very small saucepan, you're going to heat 1 to 2 inches of water to the simmer. Take it off the heat. And then after the gelatin has bloomed or softened, you're going to place the glass of gelatin into the pan and swirl it until that gelatin has melted down. And you'll remove it from the saucepan and allow it to come to room temperature. But it still must be in a liquid state before we add it to our cream. All right. In the bowl of an electric mixer, using your whip attachment, you're going to beat 2 cups of very cold, heavy cream on high speed until you get soft peaks. On low speed, I want you to add 3 tablespoons of confectioner's sugar and 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. And just beat that until it's combined. When the cooled yet liquidy gelatin is ready, turn your mixture back up to high speed and pour the gelatin in. And there won't be much of it. If the gelatin firms up too much, put it back in your simmering water to melt it down, then let it cool down a little bit before you add it. You don't want to add anything warm or hot to whipped cream because that'll make your whipped cream collapse. So once you add this gelatin that's at room temperature but still liquidy, blend it in, blend it only for a few seconds, and then stop. And now you have your beautiful, stabilized whipped cream. You're going to remove your chocolate filling in your tart pan from the refrigerator. Remember, it's now nice and cool. Slowly peel off your plastic wrap and plop that beautiful whipped cream on top immediately and create some peaks and valleys and, make it fun and really pile it high. And then you want to scatter some grated chocolate shards on top of the cream and then chill it until you're ready to serve it. And then remove the pie from the tart pan and place it on a serving plate and expect lots of oohs and ahs because that is the ultimate that you can make for a chocolate cream pie. So thank you so much for listening. On the next show, we'll be talking about baking memories with my Grandma Etta. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, my YouTube channel, and my website, chefgailsokol.com.